What are some of the traits shared by the more stable Middle Eastern and North African nations?
Well, I think that, of course, more stable, less stable, difficult judgment to make. But as I tried to say earlier, you do have some examples, and I spoke of Jordan and Morocco, both of which are monarchies. And there, I think you have a level of stability which is evident. And one reason why is that you have the monarchy and its institutions who are to a certain extent respected by their people. They're not feared by their people. They are respected, genuinely respected. And I think that has made a difference. You also have an outreach there to certain types of local civil society, which is important in terms of getting their messages across and getting things done for the people. In other countries, and I mentioned Tunisia, you have a real effort going on there, a compromise between the Islamists, the secular parties, and indeed the different economic interests, the workers and so on, and employers' organizations, which is, I think, interesting too. They're having a really tough time of it in some cases, but they continue to persevere, and we're all hopeful, of course, that they will come through. I think the least stable situations are found where you have one or other power, usually the old version of the security state, in power. It might look stable now, but for the longer term, you really have to ask the question, are they really providing long-term protection for their people?
In what areas does the EU have advantages over member states when dealing with North African and Middle Eastern nations?
Well, I think the first area to mention is always, of course, the economic one. We, as the EU single market, as opposed to individual countries, have a great deal more to offer these countries, and that is why we have the association agreements with them. We have free trade agreements with all of them, and we're going up beyond free trade agreements with others at the moment. I think that is a great advantage, and of course that also helps investment. Investment is coming from different European countries, different European companies, many of them multinationals and so on, but that is facilitated by European-wide trading arrangements between us and them. When you look at other areas, I think support for civil society very often is better done at European level. Not only because you have within Europe many organizations, whether they be the Oxfams or whether they be the Médecins Sans Frontières, who are essentially pan-European themselves already in their action, and you get a much broader range of capability than you would otherwise get. In security, that's not always so obvious, but even there, if, for example, you have police training, if you're able to call on all of the European police forces, as opposed to just the Brits or the Italians or the Germans or whatever, you can probably do a better job by finding the right kind of approach to fit with whichever country you're dealing, whether it be Egypt or Algeria or whoever, as opposed to other bilateral countries who would be very limited to their own security culture, as it were. So there are some advantages there. However, there are also some limitations.
What are your views on the idea that in some cases rights and security are incompatible?
I think that is, frankly speaking, a misnomer. It is, for me anyway, two sides of the same coin. The safest countries in the world, if you look around, not in every case, I suppose you might say China is a safe country, but in most cases anyway, the safest countries in the world tend to be those that prize individual liberty as much as they prize security. And there's a reason for that. It's not just down to levels of economic development. Because once you do that, and you give people a stake in society by protecting their rights, you have a very good reason to argue against and to counter the sort of radicalism that we've been seeing in the last 10, 15, 20 years. It's not because of security states that we've seen this rise in jihadism. It's much, much more complicated than that. But security states certainly didn't help.